His success rate was undeniable. ESP was real, and it was very much alive and well in Pat Price. His accuracy rate is purported to be 85 to 90%. And as for some of the misses on his record, a good few of them have actually been proven correct later on down the line. It wasn't that he'd recorded something false. Necessarily, it was more the fact that physical intel had yet to be collected in order to corroborate what he had psychically retrieved with his mind. Now fast forward to September 1973, and Pat decides to do some off-record remote viewing exploration in his own time. From what we're told, this was Pat gone rogue. No one had tasked him with this or suggested that he DO'd these sessions. He just followed where his consciousness led him one night, and that just happened to be right to secret alien bases hidden away inside 4 mountains across the Earth.
Straight in on page 1 with him listing all 4 of the mountains and their associated coordinates. Mount Hayes in Alaska, Mount Zeal in Australia, Mount Padidero in the Pyrenees, and Mount Ingungani in Rhodesia, and reeled off all the associated coordinates. So now Pat proceeds to give us a little bit more insight on what each of these mysterious bases are for. There seems to be a different function for each 4 of the sites. Pyrenees, main base; Ingungani, main maintenance and tech center; Hayes, weather and geological control; the Zeal, personnel center, personnel for all bases; Homo sapien intro point. That seems to be the reason for the better fetal detection at Zeal. This area should be approached with caution. In fact, the whole area is under alert right now. So for a time, I'm going to look elsewhere. So it's important to note that Pat was a Scientologist, as was Hal Puthoff at the time. So you're going to hear him use a lot of Scientology-based language to conceptualize what he's seeing. And because of that, I'm going to have to provide a bit of translation throughout, starting with right now. So theta is akin to life force, spirit, or thought, and a thetan is an actual spiritual being or soul. So when Pat says he hones in on Mount Zeal and he realizes there's humans there, thetan's a spiritual being, and therefore thetan, the life force of that being, is more detectable to him. That's what he means. And they were on high alert, so he skedaddles. Well, then Pat goes on to just casually drop in that the home port of these aliens is Mars. No further explanation, just Mars is inhabited, moving on. And so he heads back to Mount Padidero, and this is what Pat says. Primary purpose there is to reinforce BTC implants, transport new recruits, and overall monitoring function. Once again, translation, BTC implants means body Satan cluster implants, which is basically human spirit attachment, but clusters of them, who imprint traumatic memories on the person they attach to. So kind of like a bunch of demons on your back whispering in your ear, and you mistakenly think that they're all your own thoughts. I am going to have to give you a very little bit of brief Scientology law, because Harl, Ingo, and Pat were all OT level Scientologists, which allows you to pursue to the secret upper tiers, which are the OT ones, which stands for Operating Thetan. Now when you get to OT3, which Hal, Ingo, and Part had all achieved, you're finally allowed into the deep dark secrets of the universe, and that is when you are told about Xenu. Now Xenu is a galactic confederacy overlord who 75 million years ago brought billions of other beings to Earth before then killing them by strapping hydrogen bombs to volcanoes. He then captures all the phantoms, which are again souls or spirits, and implanted engrams, which are like traumatic memories, in order to trap them in their bodies. So the body phantoms, BTs, are clustered spirits attached to human bodies carrying these implants like some sort of viral disruption code. Personnel to all appearances look like blonde Homo sapiens except lung, heart, and eyes. Lung tissue is much coarser than Homo sapien. Heart has added chambers, one on ventral side for extra compression in and out of Earth atmosphere. Blood is much darker on exposure to air. I note that the eyes have same characteristics of a cat or very similar to them. When viewed obliquely, they have much greater depth of lens. Skin tone has a bluish cast, looks like a human with cancer. They use thought induction transfer, have knowledge knowledge of physics, universal flow patterns, can induce instant sleep and hypnosis. By thought transfer, they can motor control humans and direct movement of body-to-suit requirement. So, they are essentially blonde, sickly-looking humanoids that can be in thoughts directly into people's heads to control us, and they understand how the universe's energy flows, which tracks with everything we hear about them so far. Pyrenees base located 1,500 foot below peak area, land imports are built on a cantilever extendable platform. When extended from the side of the mountain, it reaches around 125 foot and has a conveyor system. As soon as one lands, the conveyor transfers off-pad so that another can land in a matter of seconds. I noticed another much larger recovery unit. It can extend out 376 feet. It's used for main transports, interplanetary. Several local units in launch recovery at this time. Note: I have to be alert not to make actions in this area. There are a number of state and traps, aka soul traps, in and about this area, mainly to detect the escape of new recruits. All around the area, within a 2-mile circle, various detectors like heat sensors, magnetic field detectors, and special units. The detection units are very thin metal sheets graduated in size, smallest about 1 foot square, largest 10 foot square. The sheets are held under tension around the perimeter. An arm extends out above and below the metal sheet with an indicator finger, not quite touching the metal. If the metal detects a vibration, it sets up a harmonic wave which causes the metal to contact the finger, which transmits electricity to the alarm system. Very interesting units. Pat then redirects himself back to the launch area and goes all in on a technical description of a UFO. The ships are 120 foot wide, 120 foot tall discs, roughly the size of a 12-story building. From bottom to top, they're 40 feet high. The propulsion is an electromagnetic force field generated at the center from a 10-foot glowing metal globe built from alternating sheets of metal and insulation wrapped around a central metal ring. Each metal layer is wired to a computer which connects to the main control panel. It reads Earth's natural magnetic field, then pushes back with an opposite field from far away, maybe another base or satellite, to levitate and steer. The outer hull is ultra-thin, only 2.5 inches in total. It's built in 4 layers. 1. Outer skin, ultra-thin metal. 2. Ablative shield, heat-proof coating bonded tight. 3. 1-inch gas layer, argon-krypton mix, like a thermos to block heat flash radiation. 4. Inner skin, just 1/8 of an inch thick, light but strong. I noticed that personnel do not speak to communicate. Both male and female all do the same tasks. Crew preparing for departure. No helmets, units are pressurized. No fear of skin rupture. They strap on an oversole right over their ankle. Length boots. Crew of 12, 3 are female. Mission: check monitoring units in their sector. Also monitor Skylab return. Pat then shifts his focus over to Mount Hayes. September 19th, 1973. Decided to look at location in Mount Hayes, Alaska, Wrangell Range. Same security measures at Mount Padidero. Area is now snow-covered, mountainous, craggy, volcanic origin. Launch recovery area in undercut of mountain. Activity inside is very relaxed. I see an area filled with what appears to be computer equipment. Instead of reels, equipment has metallic discs. There is a section filled with equipment that look like one is used to match wave patterns. Decided to follow leads on find out where they lead. On top of peak is a small box-like structure, has antenna inside. Antenna is rotational. This links up to wave match. Then other units take over and scan that wave pattern. They have a cabinet full of small compartments that have crystals of fixed frequency which are put in the oscilloscope. When new wave pattern is discovered, admin determines frequency, distance, power output, pulse, etc. Data fed to computer. Computer determines match or mismatch with all stored crystals. If match is found, the computer states known sources of that particular pattern. If mismatch, alert is sounded and are ordered to physically seek out source of power output and monitor, get data, and return. Oscilloscope data creates new crystal, and all new data is stored in computer for future use. All new patterns are investigated until enough data is secured to determine source and utility of new pattern. Alert is maintained until new source is determined to have negative potential on their own actions. If activity assumes any potential for discovery, personnel are deployed physically in order to make certain of failure of that particular project. It comes to mind that these people, and he puts that in quotation marks, have infiltrated all governments in sensitive positions, in positions of power to stop politically any activity that may produce a result that could cause discovery, particularly scientific fields, space fields, energy fields, church, education, and financial systems. Just determined that this site has been responsible for strange activity and malfunction on US-Soviet space projects. The computers at the site are fed all data acquisition from all space activity on Earth, US, Soviet, etc., can cause false commands to space vehicles which result in unseen and unusual behavior of vehicles and crew. 8 p.m., 30th of September, 1973. Decided to return to Hayes site. Activity very quiet. In fact, it's very relaxed. Going to look at Inyagangi location. This base looks like overhaul and maintenance. I can see lots of spare equipment. Also, personnel don't appear to be quite as sharp as the other two units. They are doing some welding. Looks different than what I've seen before. Parts being welded are put in a vacuum chamber with a window area, then part pre-fused. A grayish-white powder is pasted onto both parts, then fused. While I was looking at the welding unit, my attention was drawn to a unit that several people are working on. It is a tubular grid system. Electrical connections are on opposite ends of tubes. Alternately welded across the top of the tubes is a unit that looks like a waveguide. I got the impression that the whole unit is for ionizing a layer of air. It has something to do with smog. Ionize a layer of air when it traps air mass below it. Mount Zeal, standing in launch recovery area and looking out over a great sandy desert. It is very interesting that this unit appears to have the greatest number of personnel. Frankly, I expected this site to have the least personnel, but there are personnel from the other 3 sites here, like a rest and recreation area. Note, felt slightly disorientated for a few moments. They may have detected me, so let them to Melbourne. There's a scientist there who is known to be very interested in the Great Sandy Desert and is preparing an expedition for a year's research. Locked them into him and the disorientation disappeared. Decided to look at the Bermuda Triangle and determine the nature of the area. This is some good stuff. If you extend vector lines from each of the 4 locations and intersect them on the tip of Florida, you get 2 lines of the Bermuda Triangle. For great ages of time, the tip of Florida was the compass setting for trade routes and navigational computations for incoming immigrants from South America, Africa, and Europe. This made an ideal site for acquisition of physical data, monitoring point. When it was decided that physical data of a general nature was desirable, the units went to this area and set up a magnetic electrical disturbance, guided in whatever the target was, i.e. ship or a plane, used a tractor beam device to hold target, physically took personnel aboard, then disintegrated the vehicle and returned to their base. They do a preliminary data withdrawal from personnel, in brackets victims, then transfer them to their home for further study, mainly post-mortem. Some they did an operation on, heart or lung, and transported them alive. Basically, they use Homo sapien agents. The intended agent is taken in initially by thought induction, programmed as to their mission function, then a resonance vibration is set into them. This is the triggering vice. When the agent receives subliminally the restimulation of that particular vibration, in brackets ultrasound, they key in and start relaying the acquired data and can also receive updated data. The answer to unwinding the puzzle is to locate the exact frequency of the implant, reproduce it in the vicinity of the agent, then by thought transference, bleed off the data, and then install new data. So what he's telling us is that essentially the Bermuda Triangle is a big old trap. Basically, the product available on the shelves is humans. They create storms, yank ships and planes into it, beam the people aboard, autopsy them, or if you have the misfortune of surviving the open heart alien surgery, they'll take you to their home planet, program you to become a remote-controlled spy with an ultrasound trigger, then return you to Earth as a data-reliant sleeper cell. Our next session is from the 16th of October, 1973, and it's stamped as received by Heat E. Putoff on 18th of October, 7:10 p.m. Decided to take a look at some UFOs tonight. We're off to a good start. Located at 3 just north of Huntsville right now. They are 68,000 feet, cruising on a heating to Oak Ridge, Tennessee. They have a rendezvous at 10:15 Eastern Time with an agent that works in atomic energy plant in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Name Roy Wicker, who has some newly obtained data on enriched material, Ronnerville on Hill located 7 miles northwest of Oak Ridge and 6 miles due west of Clinton. There is a plateau on west side of Ridge, about 3 miles up Mountain Road. They are to meet there. Just one ship is going down, others to separate. No 2 ship is going to Norfolk, Virginia, and Photo Norfolk Navy Base, Portsmouth, and Newport News. No 3 is heading to Jacksonville, Florida. So far, I can't pick up the intention of No 3. They are all to rendezvous over Nassau, Bahamas at 12 local time, then return to their home base. Their base is number 1. Which I believe is Mount Padidero in the Pyrenees. 8:50 p.m. Took some time to watch the series. Numbers 2 and 3 are over Bermuda Triangle. No, 1 got some data on 3 projects. 1, Moonbeam. 2, Starlight. 3, Moondust. Picked up container with sample of material, some diagrams on Mercury shielding, and van to return to the same location next Monday night, 8:55 p.m. All 3 together now. Heading out over Atlantic, increasing altitude up to 200 feet, heading almost due east. There was some comment on flight regarding Pasquale incident. In fact, some concern. Seems someone is playing a truth or some other unknown unit made the contact. They don't use the technique of altered concept implant, just use heavy memory shutdown procedure. It's entirely possible that incident may have been pulled off by crew from Green Planet. Project Moondust was a classified U.S. Air Force project from 1953 to 1965, with documented extensions into the 1970s, tasked with recovering foreign space debris including Soviet hardware and objects of an unknown origin, aka UFO crash materials. They deployed rapid response teams globally and often in coordination with Project Bluefly to secure items before public or adversary access. Declassified State Department and Air Force documents were released through FOIA in the 1990s, but in 1973, this was not public information. Now, Project Starlight was not a standalone program, but more of a classified reconnaissance technique developed under Project Sign and then Project Grudge, before later being integrated into Project Blue Book in 1952 to 1969. It used low light and then, in quotation marks, starlight optics, which were early night vision in infrared systems to track unidentified aerial phenomena during nighttime operations. Employed on aircraft and ground stations, it supported NORAD and CIA monitoring of high-altitude anomalies. References to Starlight appear in Declassified Blue Book administration files and internal Air Force reports, but the name and technical details remain classified until 1970s to 1990s FOIA releases. But again, in 1973, it was not public knowledge.